All right, welcome back to the fun and interesting facts of Zimbabwe. So we're gonna carry on with the land tenure and property. All right, so let's look at that. Land distribution is highly skewed. Freehold land scale commercial farms that cover about 40% of the national territory are owned by a tiny fraction of the population, predominantly white. About half the population lives on holdings that are typically between 5 and 50 hectares, 2 hectares and 20 hectares in the communal and resettlement sectors, which cover about 40% of the country. Freehold small-scale commercial farms that were established as native purchase areas by the 1930 Land Apportionment Act cover approximately 4% of the country. Other major categories of land use are state-owned areas protected for their wildlife, flora and fauna, about 13% of the country, and forests, particularly in the Eastern Highlands. Freehold land is privately owned, but communal land is vested in the president and located through rural district councils that grant consent for the use according to the customary law. In practice, chiefs have the right to allocate rights to use of land. To married adult men, women have access to land only through their husbands. Resettlement areas were established after independence to increase black access to land, and land that is allocated by permit. Although women can obtain permits, most women in the resettlement areas secure access to land through their husbands. Freehold landowners are predominantly men, although women have rights to succession. Inheritance by widows and daughters is rare. As with land, property is predominantly male-owned. Let's move on to the commercial activities. During the period of the unilateral declaration of independence, the country developed a strong manufacturing base, and it continues to manufacture products ranging from household items to steel and engineering products for the construction industry and commercial agriculture products such as textiles and foodstuffs. The diversified economy provides a solid basis for sustained economic growth, but in recent years it's been underperforming. Let's check out the major industries. Manufacturing is the largest single sector of the economy, 23% of the GDP, followed by agriculture and forestry at 14%, distribution, hotels and restaurants at 11%, and public administration at 10%. Let's check out the trade. Major exports include tobacco, gold, ferroalloys, nickel, and asbestos. The main export destinations are Great Britain, South Africa, and Germany. South Africa is by far the largest source of imports, and machinery and transport equipment, manufactured goods, chemicals, petroleum products, and electricity are the largest imports. Division of labor. In the formal economy, jobs are assigned on the basis of education, skills, and experiences. Advertising and interviewing precede hiring. In the formal economy, most people work for themselves and pay workers on a cash basis. Let's check out the political life. Government. Zimbabwe is a parliamentary democracy headed by a president, although the president is elected by direct vote in advance of the party elections and holds office for 6 years. The term during which a party can control the government is 5 years. Representation structures consist of a House of Assembly and a cabinet appointed by the president. At rural district level, they are elected councils. Each district is made up of a number of wards, and wards are subdivided into villages. Each ward and village has a developed committee that's responsible for promoting and supporting local development initiatives. 10 chiefs, traditional representatives elected by their peers, sit into the House of Assembly, Alongside the representation structure is the civil service, the administrative structure, the police, the military, the permanent secretaries and other ministry staff, and provincial and district administrative staff. Let's check out the military activity. Military branches of the government are Zimbabwe's National Army, the Air Force of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Republic Force, including the Police Support Unit and the Paramilitary Police. About 1.5 million men aged between 15 and 49 are estimated fit for military service, and over 45,000 were serving in the army in the beginning of the 21st century. Expenditure on military activities rose as a result of the country's involvement in the war in the Democratic Republic of Congo beginning in the 1998. This was the Army's first foreign military intervention since 1980. Social welfare and change programs. Social welfare and change programs provide assistance to the destitute and drought relief in the communal areas when there are poor harvests. Zimbabwe provided more relief in the drought of 1991 and 92 than did the international donors. Non-government organizations and churches provide many services that the government cannot, such as rehabilitation of disabled persons and the care of the community for the sick. Let's check out the non-government organizations and other associations. There are 800 to 900 organizations and associations that engage in activities ranging from advocacy work to service delivery to welfare. Membership organizations include farmers' union, trade unions, and organizations of the disabled and non-membership organizations vary from development organizations to charities that provide welfare services. Many of these groups are closely linked with the other South African and international organizations. Church groups, burial societies, and savings and credit groups are the most common form organizations in the community, and most people, particularly women, are members of at least one. Let's check out the gender roles and statuses. Division of labor by gender. The roles of men and women in farming are determined by a land tenure system in which men are allocated land in the communal areas and owned most of the land in the commercial areas. Both men and women work in the small holdings in the communal areas, and the women are responsible for domestic work. About 70% of women are smallholder farmers compared with the 35% of the men. Commercial farmers rely on hired labor, both male and female. Only in the agriculture sector of the formal economy do women outnumber men. This includes commercial farms and agro-processing activities. Many entrepreneurs in the formal sector are based on women's traditional economic activities such as gardening, raising poultry, baking to supplement household income. The informal sector has grown considerably because of the retrenchment in the formal sector and a decline in household income, and is a crucial source of income for many households. Men predominate as government representatives and civil servants, form the cabinet of the village, and form ministries to district councils. About 15% of members of the House of Assembly are women. Political leadership is male-dominated, although there is growing challenge in this system from organizations seeking to raise more women to influential decision-making positions. The relative statuses of women and men. According to the Constitution, men and women are equal. However, in terms of the law, there are many areas where women are discriminated against, such as laws governing the conditions of part-time work, inheritance law, and the fact that bride prices, lobola, are still allowed. In a recent setback for women's rights in April 1999, the Supreme Court, in an inheritance dispute, ruled that women cannot be considered equal to men before the law because of African culture norms. Precedence was given to customary law over the Constitution on the basis of a clause in the Constitution that allows for certain exceptions. Let's check out marriage, family kinship. Marriage. Through marriage, a family ensures its survival and continuation into the next generation. Shona, Ndebele, Shangan, and Venda are patrilineal societies in which descent is through the male line, and after marriage, a woman moves into her husband's home. The Tonga are matrilineal, and the husband moves to the home area of his wife. Patrilocal or virilocal residence rarely applies in urban areas, but most urban families have a small holding that is rural home for the husband and wife. Two types of marriage are recognized under the law. Customary marriages are potentially polygamous and legal for Black Zimbabweans only, and usually are dissolved only by death. Divorce is rare. Civil marriages are monogamous and can be dissolved by death or divorce. Customary marriages are the most common form. Arranged marriages are rare, although families on both sides are heavily involved in the marriage negotiations, which include deciding on the bride price to be paid by the husband to the woman's family. Thus, the wife and her children belong to the husband, are affiliated with his kin. Marriage gives women status and access to land, and unmarried men and women are rare. Polygamy is still widespread, although it is declining as land constraints and lower incomes are encouraging smaller households. Divorce is not common and carries a stigma, especially for women. Let's check out the domestic unit. In the rural areas, the family unit is composed of the husband, the wife, all wives, children, and members of the extended family. In urban areas, households are smaller, with a tendency toward a nuclear family of the husband, the wife, and the children. In polygamous families, each wife has her own house and a share of a field. Households usually are defined in the terms of domestic unit of the wife and children and other dependents. Therefore, polygamous family and a wider extended family living together may constitute of two or more households. The average household has 4.76 persons. Authority is vested in men and wisdom is vested in age. After marrying, a man assumes domestic authority as the household head. But in wider family affairs, the elders are more influential. The woman also gains authority and respect with age, and newly married daughters-in-law take over much of the household and help in the fields. Assistance continues after a daughter-in-law has established her own household nearby. Let's look at the inheritance. In customary marriages, all property rights during the marriage or after divorce or death belong to the man. Disposition of the estate or guardianship of children are determined by male relatives of the husband. Women may retain property that's traditionally associated with their domestic role, such as kitchen utensils, and one of the implications of patriarchal residence that has carried into contemporary urban life is that unmovable property is regarded as the man's property. Although changes in the law recognizes a woman's contribution, it is difficult for a woman to claim rights to property in the face of the family opposition. Wills are rare, although they override customary law. In civil marriages ended by divorce or death, wives and widows have the right to a share of the husband's estate although the same difficulties apply. Let's look at the kin groups. Relationships with maternal kin, or in the case of the Tonga, paternal kin, are important. Although contact may be infrequent, the relationship is normally a close one. Therefore, the wider kin group of an extended family can be very extensive. Let's look at the socialization. Infant care. The nurturing and socialization of infants are the responsibilities of mothers, and in their temporary absence, for example, when they are working, a female relative. In customary practices, orphans are the responsibility of the husband's relatives. A great deal of an infant's time is spent in the company of the mother, being carried on the back in the kitchen and sleeping with her at night. Socialization takes place mostly in the household through the mother, and the extended family and other children nearly always are around to play with the infant. Therefore, in addition to the strong caring bond between mother and child, other adults and older children develop bonds and assume responsibility in the absence of the mother. Let's check out the child rearing and education. An infant or child is seldom lonely, and being constantly surrounded by relatives lays the foundation for behavior in an adult life that is dependent on cooperation within the family. Children learn respect of their elders, which is considered a very important quality. From the age of about 7 or 8. All right, children learn respect for their elders, which is considered a very important quality. From the age of 7 to 8, girls start to help in the house. And in the rural areas, boys at the age begin to learn how to herd livestock. Children are encouraged to take on adult tasks from an early age. Primary school starts when a child is 7, and after 7 years, after 7 years, a child who has passed the exams may continue in secondary school for the 2, 4, or 6 years. Children walk to school, and a primary school may be 1 hour walk, and secondary school a longer walk. Walking to school and playing generally are not supervised closely by adults, and are important ways in which children learn self-reliance. However, a child is usually dependent on their family economically and socially, and later as an adult, the demands of urban life, particularly the reliance on cash or support or lifestyle, can lead to conflict with a rural family's need for cash and traditional values. Let's go on to higher education. Higher education is valued as qualified for white-collar and professional occupations, and is becoming increasingly important as an entry point to technically skilled employment. Families are proud of the children who go on to receive further education, especially in the rural areas. There is no social stigma for the family of a child who has expected to enter college or university but failed to do so. Let's check out the religion. Religious beliefs. In traditional religion, the spirit of a deceased person returns to the community, and the deceased heads of extended families, the ancestors, have a powerful influence on family life. The spirit ancestors are usually 2 or 3 generations back from the living generation, and are the people who passed on the custom of honoring their ancestors and traditions of their community. Okay, they are honored in ceremonies to celebrate good harvest and in appeals to deal with misfortune. When a spirit becomes angry, it communicates through a medium or a diviner diagnoses the anger, and cause and appeasement follows. Families seeking to avenge death or enforce debt payment may consult diviner healers, Nanga, witches are thought to have power to raise angry spirits, and the anger of a spirit may or may not be justified in the view of the affected family. Many Christians continue to believe in spirits and the power of witchcraft and seek spiritual guidance from both belief systems. The largest churches are the Roman Catholic and the Anglican, and the Apostolic Church is the largest independent church. Independent churches tend to interpret the Bible more in accordance with the traditional values and faith healing and saving organizations. For example, barrier societies feature strongly in their activities. Let's check out the death and afterlife. Customarily, the dead are buried close to home, and people in urban areas may bring their deceased back to rural areas for burial. Graves are prepared close to the family homestead. All are both sacred and feared for their association with death and spirits. A diviner may be consulted to determine the cause of death and prescribe a ritual action. This is followed by ceremonies to settle the spirit and mark the end of mourning. After 1 year, a final ceremony is held at which the spirit becomes a spirit guardian of the family. These ceremonies generally combine traditional and Christian practices. Let's check out medicine and healthcare. Traditional and modern medicines are used, and a distinction is made between minor ailments and serious illnesses. This is done particularly because of the belief that illnesses may have been inflicted by angry spirits, justifiably or through witchcraft. Therefore, treatment for a serious illness may include consultation with the Nanga. Herbal remedies continue to be used widely for minor ailments, and Nanga are respected for their counseling skills, especially in treating psychologically and psychiatric problems. There is a healthcare system of clinics, district hospitals, and teaching hospitals in Harare and Bulawayo, although in recent years the service has been affected by financial constraints. There is also an association of registered traditional healers, the Zimbabwe National Traditional Healers Association of Nanga, that includes spirit medium in its membership. Let's look at the secular holidays. Independence Day is celebrated on the 18th of April, and Heroes Day is celebrated on the 11th of August. The art and humanities. Support for the arts. Arts are held in high regard in the Harare and Bulawayo, and to a lesser extent in the rural areas. There are many training centers. Some of these centers are self-run, started with the assistance of patrons. Some are run by non-government organizations, and some are cooperatives. The most famous is the Tenge Nenge in Guruve district, which is produced by many of the most famous Shona sculptures. The National Gallery in Harare, founded in 1954, has been instrumental in the promotion of arts, especially sculpture. Competition is high, especially in the sculpture and women's tradition craft markets, baskets, mats, and pottery. Let's check out the literature. Literature, the first Shona novel was published in 1956, and the first Ndebele was in 1957. Since that time, especially after independence, there's been bargaining of Shona and Ndebele literature. Major themes are folklore, myth, and legend. Traditional oral literature. The pre-independence experience and struggle and living in a post-independent country. International acclaimed novelists include Shima Shinyonja, Harvest of Thorns, Ncherenji Hove, Bones Shadows, and Boris Lessing, the Martha Quest trilogy, and her autobiographies. Who is the most famous white writer? An international book fair is held in Harare every August. Graphic arts. Shona sculpture is internationally acclaimed and exhibited. Those works fetch thousands of dollars of the international market, particularly in Europe and the United States. Although this art form is referred to as Shona sculpture, it's not specific to the Shona. The themes are derived largely from African folklore and transformed into figurative, semi-abstract, and minimalist works that use a variety of stone, including black serpentine. Black serpentine. Performing arts. Traditionally inspired music is predominant in the arts and represents culture continuity within the past, based on the myths and based on the themes and melodies of the mbira, finger piano, the instrument associated with the ancestors. Traditional music promoted a feeling of solidarity in the struggle for independence. Music groups were formed in urban areas, lyrics contained political messages, and the music scene promoted African rather than European figures. Since 1980, the number of cultural groups has increased and public appearances have become common. The already availability of radios has not been replaced playing music, usually the mbira or drums, in the home. Thomas Mafuma and the Blacks Unlimited Group are the most well-known proponents of popular music, heavily influenced by traditional music. Other influences on popular music include the church music, gospel, Zairean rumba, and South African mbakwanga and mbumbe. Black mufoloso exemplifies the Mbubu tradition of Nguni vocals and harmony sung a cappella. Older people have a greater affinity with traditional music, but all Zimbabwean music is influenced by the myths and melodies of the mbira. Western music is popular. The artists are influenced by it to varying degrees. Several Zimbabwean films have been commercially successful, including The Flame, Jit, Everyone's Child, and Naira. Flame has a political focus, and the other three have social themes. Let's look at the state of physical and social sciences. Before independence, Black Zimbabwean college enrollment was low. College enrollment was low, I beg your pardon, particularly in technical colleges. The tendency was to find course places in universities and technical colleges outside the country, and in academic courses rather than in technical or vocational courses. The expansion of the primary, secondary, and tertiary education with independence meant an expansion of the social sciences, in particular education. This was not matched by the same expansion in the scientific and technical fields of the physical sciences, engineering, and medicine. Therefore, technical expertise and highly skilled labor has continued to be a constraint, and one which has, at least in part, been responsible for the white minority retaining a disproportionate share of the economic resources. There are two state-owned universities, the University of Zimbabwe in Harare and the National University of Science and Technology in Bulawayo. The University of Zimbabwe is the older university, and it has an international track record in the physical and social sciences, particularly in the natural sciences and in the application of social science to agriculture and rural development and ecology and conservation projects. The National University of Science and Technology opened in 1991 and offers courses in applied science, commerce, industrial technology. Two private universities have also been recently established. Africa University, funded by the United Methodist Church in Mutale, and the Catholic University in Harare. The Harare Polytechnic and the technical colleges in major towns offer vocational and training courses. Support from the international donors has been provided to the applied social sciences, media and communication studies, the applied natural sciences, the biotechnology at the University of Zimbabwe. So I believe we finally come to the end of our fun and interesting facts about Zimbabwe. I want to thank every single one of you that has made it this far. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. And we also want to strongly encourage you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And yes, we need ideas on what would you want to watch next. Once again, this has been read to you by yours truly, Christine, courtesy of Exhibit Africa Ubuntu Initiative, compiled by everyculture.com if you want to check them out. Cheers and have a good one. We'll keep you posted on what our next series will be about. Take care.